Welcome back to Bison Overtime. I'm Malik Mitchell.
And I'm Mentzel. And before we start with our usual football, we do have some sad news to share related to NDSU football. Former NDSU football coach Daryl Mudra has passed away at the age of 93. The National Football Foundation says the College Football Hall of Fame coach died at his home in Tallahassee, Florida on Wednesday. He won 2 college football Division II titles, one here at NDSU in 1965 and one at Eastern Illinois in 1978. In his 3 years at NDSU, he had a record of 24-6, won the North Central Conference 2 years in a row, and won NDSU's first college football championship in 1965. His overall coaching record was 281-4 at 7 different college universities, and no matter where he went, he would always seem to win. Our condolences, our thoughts, and our prayers go out to his family. But we have football right now, and ironically, the football game that NDSU played this past weekend were 2 of the teams that he had coached in his career, NDSU and Arizona. So let's get into it.
Yep, and unfortunately, they suffered a loss, 31-28. It was a tough battle, even though, I know Bison fans had NDSU winning, not only beating the University of Arizona, but also like a blowout. Like you said, they only won 1 game last season, but ultimately, teams get better.
Oh, Arizona has absolutely looked better this year. It was evident ever since their first game against San Diego State University back in week 1 when they were 3.5-point underdogs, and they ended up winning that game by 18 points. It was the same thing here, 3.5-point underdogs again, and they definitely showed that they are not a team to be messed around with.
It was a really tough game. Let's see what Matt Eds has to say.
Always disappointing when you get beat. Arizona played really well, and man, Jaden DeLaura was what we thought. Extended plays, did a great job of moving the pocket, did some things out of the naked. They even ran some read zone with him. So they took advantage of a guy who was a very good athlete. And otherwise, it comes down, we weren't very good on third down on either side of the football. We, that series in the third quarter where we had a penalty on a third down, then we gave up a long 3rd and 14, critical mistakes. We couldn't, the 4th down, I felt like that was the right move at about the 7-minute mark of the game of the 4th quarter, and we didn't get it. I thought it was the right play call, it's the right body, right people in the game. Frustrated for our kids. We played really hard.
Arizona was started with the ball, and their quarterback showed his scrambling ability. And you mentioned that last episode. We couldn't get off the blocks. He had so much time to scramble.
And there was definitely a worry that I had last week. Jaden DeLaura, he may have been a problem, and he definitely was a problem. He scrambled all over NDSU's defense, and NDSU just couldn't get any pressure on him, unfortunately. He was comfortable in the pocket. Every time he made a throw, he could run the ball, too. He ran for 50 yards, so he just had himself a great night. And a lot of people had said this was DeLaura's best game that he'd ever played in college football to this point.
Yep, and they marched down the field and got that touchdown up the gut. They were the first ones to score, and then the Bison responded. They didn't go out easy. Coach Roll really had some plays, under his sleeve, solely emphasizing Hunter Lukey. He had a couple runs, and then he got that great pass to the side. He kind of just sat there. It was a fake run, kind of sneaked through the linebackers and caught him by the sideline, and he just took off.
Yeah, for running backs this week, we always talk about which running back is going to get the most carries. Who's going to be the one that's going to kind of stand out over the others? And I'm not saying it's like a running back 1 scenario or anything, but every team that you play, you have a different strategy, and a different strategy may involve a different running back running the ball more often. And this week, it was definitely Hunter Lukey.
And then speaking of the defense, on the next drive, the defense tried to get some momentum going. They stopped him in the 4th and 2, and then with great field position, we're kind of in the red zone. Cam Miller gets strip sack. He sees a man open too, just corner the field, gets strip sack, and then Arizona will respond, going out and scoring again.
Yeah, that turnover hurt in the long run, and you didn't think about it at the time because it's like, okay, it's still early and you can recover from this one. Unfortunately, that turnover made a big difference by the end of the game.
Yep, I think momentum was really a sole factor what we couldn't get going. Something good would happen, and then something bad would happen, and all that momentum would go away.
Yeah, and it led to the second drive for Arizona, and they would end up making money off of that turnover.
Yep, and speaking on, they ruled Hunter Lukey out on the pylon. That pass he had down the sideline.
Yeah.
I thought that was a score. He stretched the ball out. But they ruled him out. Do you think that kind of either increase the momentum, like, okay, we're close, at least we're getting something going? Or do you like, oh, we can't do anything right at this point?
It wouldn't matter because on the next play, Cam Miller would finish off the drive with a QB run, tying the game up at 14 apiece.
Yep.
And then we're going to fast forward to 2 minutes left in the third quarter. Arizona at this point is up now 24-21.
Yep.
The Bison were back on offense. Hunter Lipke just rumbling, bumbling, stumbling. My goodness, he's looking like Mike Allstott back when he played for the Buccaneers.
Yep.
Right up the gut, breaking 2 tackles, saw daylight. That made the score 28-24. It actually kind of reminded me of his touchdown run last year against Youngstown State, where he had that big run where he broke a bunch of tackles.
Took off.
However, we're going to fast forward again to 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Arizona scored again. Their quarterback scrambled to the left and found his guy on a quarter route and just floated it in the end zone.
Yeah, Oscar Benson, linebacker, he just picked up on a route a little bit too late, and the guy just ran past him on a corner route. It's just a devastating play to lose. He saw it, but it's just a little bit too late. You know, when a receiver's at his top speed already, it's kind of hard to catch up to a guy like that.
Yeah. However, there was still time left. The Bison would get one more chance to try to score.
Yeah.
However, 3 plays, just 2 yards. They couldn't get anything going. The first play was a run up the gut that got 2 yards. Second play, lather, rinse, repeat. Nothing there. Arizona saw that one coming. And then on third down, tried to get a bubble out to Braylon Henderson.
Yeah.
And he got stuffed from the backfield. So kind of unfortunately, the play calling there, I kind of questioned it a little bit because it seemed a little bit – Arizona was kind of expecting us to stay close to the line of scrimmage at that point. They wanted us to beat them over the top, and we didn't even try.
I think that last Arizona touchdown really was the last devastating blow. But let's get into some offensive defense. Starting with the quarterbacks, Cam Miller, he had himself another good game in my opinion. The reason why he separates from the other QBs, consistency, man. He's thrown for over 100 yards in each game so far. He completed 10 passes for 124 with a TD. So he's doing really good in my opinion.
Absolutely this year. We still have yet to see like a big mistake from Cam Miller. Sure, he had the fumble, but I mean, you could argue that really wasn't his fault because the guy came out the blind side. So he overall this year has just had an amazing year this year, and he doesn't need to be blowing the stats up. He doesn't need to be throwing for 300 yards every week. He doesn't need to do that because everybody's trying to compare him to like previous quarterbacks like Lance and Stick and Wentz. Yeah. No, he doesn't need to do that. He just needs to be the quarterback that we need for this offense, and he has been that and then some so far this year.
Yeah, but then Cole Payton, we didn't see him much on the field. He had 5 rushing attempts for 32 yards. Now, how do you think it's going to play out? You know, do you think this game was just a little bit too big for him for as far as passing plays or anything like that?
I mean, yeah, I figured we weren't going to try anything too crazy in a game like this against Arizona. I mean, it's a big game, but you're not going to absolutely throw your playbook out of view, especially if the running game is doing so well. But we used him on some QB powers, and I mean, that's really all we need to do with him at this point.
As far as the running backs, Hunter Lipke had 18 carries for 115 yards with 2 TDs. Like I said, he's really important with this offense. I mean, every week, rumbling, bumbling, and stumbling. How do you feel about his performance?
He's been doing amazing. I definitely see him playing NFL football next year because a fullback is a dying position in football, unfortunately. But Hunter Lipke, guys like him make sure that this position is going to stick around because it shows how important that position is. Not just in the run game, and in the pass game, too. He's been very important.
That's the thing. He's versatile. You can say he's not as fast as a true running back, but he could be a running back also. He's not just a fullback. His strength, he's just a grown man playing among boys. So it looks like he's just a fullback, but I think he can do both. And as far as the passing, Tamir Williams, he had a couple good runs too. You know, we haven't seen him in the early games, but he had a couple good runs that changed the course of that drive.
And Coach has been talking about him getting better and, you know, really being on fire during the practices throughout the year so far this year. And it's definitely showed in the last few weeks. He's been getting more carries, and busted a few big ones against Arizona there.
Yeah, but as far as passing, Hunter Lipke would get 3 for 65 yards, and for a TD, the man was just all over the place. And I want to ask you this, right? When we have big games like these, they emphasize Hunter Lipke. Everybody knows that. Do you think it's going to hinder him in a way as far as injuries, him being tired? You know, we can't weigh him down before we get, down the stretch of the season as far as playoffs.
Sure, you don't want to weigh him down, but at this point in his career, we really haven't seen any problems with him being worn down yet. He has just been, every time he gets out there, he is ready to carry that football. He's ready to carry the load. However, if that ever does become a problem, we have the running back core to be able to say, okay, you can stay on the sideline for a few plays here. Somebody else can be able to run the ball.
Yep, and then Dash, what did the defense look like?
The defense, it definitely was a struggle. Definitely one of the games that you definitely want to forget about on the defensive side. NDSU's defense struggled on the line of scrimmage, especially the absence of Eli Mostert was a big deal.
That was tough.
Jaden DeLore ran all over the defense.
Yeah.
The defense only had 1 sack in the entire game, and that was very late in the game with Javier Darrett. DeLore scrambled 10 times for 50 yards against the NDSU defense, and as for yards total, it's a number that you don't see very often, unfortunately. The defense gave up 475 yards total, 283 through the air, and 192
And I just want to point out some of the plays as far as the secondary, they just look confused. Like every time he would scramble and in the passing, they just look like what's going on. But I would say one player had himself a game. Courtney Eubanks made a statement in this game, in my opinion. He had 5 tackles, and a couple of those tackles really changed the course of the drive. I think he made a statement, kind of a young gun. He started last year a little bit, and now was claimed the starter. I think he's been doing good so far.
His growth has definitely been outstanding just through these few weeks because, in the championship game last year, gave up a touchdown. And ever since then, I think he has used that to feel himself to be better every single week, and he has shown that he is growing every single week when he gets out there. I think eventually quarterbacks are not going to want to throw his direction if he keeps doing what he's doing.
Yep, and then as far as offensive stats, in the air, Cam Malik completed 10 passes for 124 yards for a TD. Hunter Lukey had 18 carries for 115 for 2 touchdowns, and he also caught 3 passes for 65 yards and a TD. Dash, give me some defensive stats.
For the defense, James Kaiser had a pretty dominating night with 9 tackles, almost reaching the double-digit mark. Courtney Eubanks, Destin Talbert, and Nick Kubitz all had 5 tackles each, and the Bison also had 2 tackles for loss.
Yep, they are now 2-1. They'll start conference play tomorrow against USD at 1 p.m. in Vermillion, South Dakota. Now, how do you think this is going to go? We beat them last year pretty bad, right before the playoffs. So how do you think this one will go?
It's going to be interesting. This is the first time that the Bison have gone to Vermillion since 2018. So it's been a few years since we've been down there. Yeah. And South Dakota can definitely be a team that can surprise certain teams, especially when they're in their home element. We saw that game last year between them and SDSU that ended in the Hail Mary. Yeah. However, SDSU kind of struggled so far this year. They just lost to Montana, who's another very good FCS team. They also lost to Kansas State in Week 1, an FBS team. So they've had a tough schedule to start the year, but it's not going to get any easier this weekend either. I do feel like NDSU, coming off that loss, they're going to have they're going to have the energy coming off that loss to be able to have a great game, put a good game together. I'm still not pitching for the shutout yet. Maybe you will, but I am going to predict this week. I'm going to predict 34-14.
Our predictions have been close. I think I'm doing something right because usually you get closer to me. But like you said, coming out of the loss, these boys better be fired up, especially conference play. Let's get fired up, bounce back from that loss. But I got the Bison edging 38-10. I didn't do the shutout because it hasn't been going good for me with the shutouts. But I think I will get this one. I have to get this 31-10. That's a pretty good prediction.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty close to mine. So that must mean it's pretty good, right?
I guess so. Okay, you gonna throw that in there. Anyways, how do you feel? What kind of players are you looking for in this game? As far as the passing, rushing, Hunter Lukey has been making a statement, these past few games. As far as passing, do you think any players will stand out? Because we still got Phoenix Sproles, Zach Mathis. We got some good guys that's just kind of sitting there.
In the passing game, I'm really looking forward personally to seeing more of Zach Mathis. The fact that he's only got 2 catches this year, 81 yards, 2 touchdowns. Every time he catches, he gets a touchdown. But I really want to see more balls thrown his way. Yeah. I want to see what he can do other than, just getting wide open and getting touchdowns. I want to see if he can break tackles. I want to see if he can shift and make moves. I want to see different routes that he can run. Yeah. I would love to see more of what he can offer to this offense.
Even the grow routes, because when Christian Rodson was here, that was one of his main, routes. Just put him on a go, let him speed by the defender, and catch that baby. I think Zach Mathis can do that too, but we just haven't seen it. I like his dynamic. The tall receiver. He can run some good routes too. He can move now. His strides. He can move. It looks like he's running so TV, but on the field, he's moving. And then we got Phoenix Sproles. How do you feel about Phoenix Sproles this year thus far? We haven't seen much of him, and he's kind of the vet, one of the vets on the team.
It's still hard to say though because we haven't passed a whole bunch this year, and when we do pass, it's usually the guys like Hunter Lupke or Noah Gindorf. It hasn't been to the wide receivers a whole bunch, so it's hard to say anything about Sproles yet this year. Yeah. I would like to see more of Sproles, but the thing is, when your running game is going as well as it has in a lot of our games, you really don't even need to look into the passing game. Mm-hmm. And granted, I don't know what in our playbook we have for passes downfield because we have not done that a lot this year. We haven't passed for more than 20 yards through the air on a lot of plays this year. So maybe we'll see more of that as the year goes on, but as of now, as long as the running game works, I guess just keep doing it.
Touche. Okay, make sure you guys tune into that game this weekend. When we come back, we'll dive into soccer, volleyball, and some NFL. Stay tuned.
My name is Becky Parker, and I'm a news anchor at WDAY-TV. I graduated from NDSU in 2010 with a degree in journalism, broadcasting, and mass communication technologies, and then I had an emphasis on broadcasting. Principles of broadcast production and advanced broadcast production. Those were favorites because they were the most relevant for career experience. You're calling people for interviews, you're writing an article. It doesn't just feel like an assignment, it's like actually doing it. I was the news director for the first full semester of the Bison Information Network. The BIN advisor here was very much invested in me to actually have a career in broadcasting. He helped me get my internship and my first job. The people in NDSU's Department of Communication are really interested and helpful in getting students the connections that they need in order to get a job beyond school.
Deserves to go hungry. But try as they might, not every family can afford to put food on the table every day. That's why the Great Plains Food Bank and their partner agencies work every day to bring food to our hungry neighbors. Every dollar donated can provide 4 meals for those in need. Go to greatplainsfoodbank.org and donate today so no kid in North Dakota ever has to go hungry.
Welcome back. We're going to kick this segment off with soccer. So unfortunately, the team couldn't continue their momentum from the week before. You know, over the weekend, they tied and lost one. Leading went to 2 losses, but still no dubs.
Yeah, it's been a very back and forth past few weekends. It was 2 losses 2 weeks ago. Then last weekend it was 2 wins, and now it's a tie and a loss. So just back and forth every other weekend so far.
Starting off with Friday's game, they had Idaho. They tied, scoring no goals. They each had 6 shots in the first half, and in the second half, the Bison only shot 4 with to Idaho's 7. You know, goalkeeper Abby Wilkinson, though, had 10, on a career high, actually, of 10 saves. So it's good to see the Bison had some bite in them.
Yeah, especially on the defensive side, which NDSU has improved a lot on this year. There's been a lot of games where they've given up not so many goals. They've had a lot of saves. Unfortunately, however, as good of a defense as you may have in soccer, if you can't score any goals on offense, the best you're going to get is this, a 0-0 tie.
Yeah, Devin Kavanagh led with 4 shots, 1 being on goal. Dash, what are some of the other stats?
NDSU had 10 shots on goal. Idaho had 13. NDSU's goalie had 10 saves, and Idaho's had 3.
On Saturday, they faced Montana and unfortunately lost 3-0. Montana took the lead early, scoring in the 8th minute, put the Bison, but the Bison were respond with a couple scoring. So they, like you said, all you have is defense. If you have no offense, you can't score. They really tried to respond and get that goal early as Montana did.
Yeah, there was a shot from Paige Golia. She was taken down in the penalty area, but unfortunately the Bison were not awarded a penalty kick, and that really hurt in the long run because they really just couldn't get any momentum back after that. Because Montana would score again in the 38th minute, making it 2-0, and then kind of the dagger in the second half, Montana would score their 3rd goal in the 84th minute to seal the game 3-0.
Paige Golia led the Bison with 6 shots, 2 being on goal. Dash, what other stats do you got for me?
NDSU has 7 shots on the goal, and Montana had 16. NDSU had 5 saves, and Montana had 3.
So they are now 4-3-3. They will start conference play. They got Denver today at 8 p.m. in Denver, Colorado. This will be a test because Denver took first in the preseason coaching poll. They had a good program for a couple of years now. And then on Sunday, they'll face Omaha at 1 p.m. in Omaha, Nebraska. Hopefully, the Bison can start tournament play on a good note.
Yeah, and Denver's record right now, kind of similar to NDSU. It's 3-4-2 right now. However, that record, you know, it really doesn't mean anything right now because non-conference play and conference play, those are 2 completely different animals.
That's true.
So it's game time now. It really is. This is when you got to show your best.
It's true.
You know, the preseason, so to speak, I guess you could say with non-conference play, it's all over now. It's done. Now you got to focus on the conference. You got to bring your best now because back and forth. It's been very inconsistent so far this year. They started off good, then they had a bit of a tough stretch, then it's been back and forth these past few weekends. So
but you can also look at it like this. Their pressure's on now. Now they have to perform in the conference. You can't, there's no excuse now, oh, it's not conference, we'll do good. And now the pressure is on. Do you think the Bison can rise to the occasion? Because I keep bringing this up, the head coach position. If they have another bad season, something has to happen with the coaching staff.
This NDSU team was predicted ninth to finish ninth out of 10 teams in the conference poll in the preseason. However, that's got to put some fight in this team. It has to. To be predicted only better than one team in the conference for the sport, that can't make you happy. You got to feel like you got to be better than that, 'cause especially considering this is a team that normally finished around 4th or 6th for a few years and then kind of been struggling lately. So now this is the time to turn it around.
Let's see if the women's can get it done. But moving on to volleyball, they didn't have the best weekend either. They went 1-2 for the Statsville Challenge. Last show we already covered Austin P. They lost 1-3. But later that night, they breezed past UT Martin, the 3-0. The Bison would take the second set by 14 points.
Just a dominating set by NDSU. You don't see that very often. A lot of the times, I mean, you win sets by 10 or less. A lot of them are very close. They come down to like a 23-25. However, this one by 11, or I mean by 14, excuse me, only allowing 11. That's crazy right there. That's just domination on a volleyball court.
Yeah, Bailey Randall would lead the Bison with a season high with 11 kills. Dash, what other stats you got for me?
Michelle Glover added 10 kills with a .529 hitting percentage. Kelly Johnson notched a double-double with a match-best 28 assists and 11 digs. Logan O'Brien contributed a match high of 15 digs on the defensive end with 3 assists and 1 ace. And Allie Hinsey had 5 kills and 2 aces.
Then on Saturday, they suffered a 3-0 loss against East Tennessee State. The Bison would come close in the second set, though. They only lost by 3. Syra Tanchin led the Bison with 10 kills. Dash, what other stats do you got for me?
Michelle Glover added 8 kills with a .538 hitting percentage. Kelly Johnson handed out a team best 21 assists, and Logan O'Brien totaled a match best of 16 digs, and Allie Hinsey had 8 kills and 2 aces.
Yesterday, they started tournament play against St. Thomas. They cruised by this game, too. The Tommies 3-0. How do you feel about that?
It definitely feels good to start off your conference on the right note, no matter what team it's against. When you dominate a team 3-0, especially when it's your conference opponent, the first one of the year, and we talked about that with soccer too, starting off your conference on the right note, and that's definitely what the volleyball team did.
Kelly Johnson reached 2,000 career assists. She handed out 24 assists to increase her total of 2,008.
I mean, that's got to help the momentum too when a player on your team reaches a milestone like that as well.
She now ranks 12th all-time in the assist list. Shout out for her for hitting that milestone in her career. They are now 5-8. Their next game is against Western Illinois at 11 a.m. This should be, a tough game too. Not really, because they suffered a loss against UND 1-3. NDSU took 7th in the preseason coaches poll, but they took dead last. So if there's a game to win, this has got to be it.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially considering coming off a game like St. Thomas's, and now you're heading into another one in conference play. You definitely got to keep the momentum rolling. You can't stop the momentum, or otherwise that kind of derails your season possibly, depending on how much it gets stopped, I guess.
Yep. So make sure you guys keep up with that game on GoBison.com. And now
we go to women's golf, because the Bison finishing first place out of 6 teams at the Jackrabbit Invitational for women's golf. Just another great performance in Brookings by the women's team. The Bison put together rounds of 303, 301, and 300 for a 3-round total of 904 to pick up the win. 8 strokes ahead of second place South Dakota State, of course, getting a 1-up on them in their home place. That's got to make it feel good as well. The team also had 4 golfers finish inside the top 7. Leah Scar finished tied for first place with a score of 223, including a season low 71 in the opening round. She totaled a team best of 9 birdies and added 32 pars over 3 rounds. Elise Hoven came in third place with a score of 225 and tied a career low 71 in the third round. Jo Baranchik notched her first career top 5 finish, coming in 5th place with a score of 227. And Maddie Hicks came in tied for 7th place with a score of 230. Just a great day overall by the team. The Bison will be back swinging on Monday and Tuesday at the Pat Lesser Harbottle Invitational in Tacoma, Washington. And it's just been a great start to the season so far. They've won 2 out of the 3 tournaments so far this year. They had finished 12th out of 16 teams, or out of 18, at the Hobble Creek Invitational, unfortunately. But, I mean, you're not expected to finish first in every single one.
Great way to bounce back, though.
Yes.
I hope they can continue that. Like I said, all you need is a little momentum. And now,
NFL time.
NFL time. Wait.
Uh-oh.
Now I've been waiting to bust this
out.
out.
Oh, no, it's Cowboy Troy. I don't have my cheese head with me.
Now, both of our teams had a good week too, actually.
Yeah,
Cowboys won and the Packers won. But now we start with the Cowboys. Now, the Cowboys beat the Bengals. They kind of let off the gas, down the stretch, but we still got the win. Cooper Rush looked good. Everybody has speculated. Despite all the media attention since Dak went down, can he do it? He looked good in this game.
Yeah, Cooper Rush overall, especially at the beginning and the very end of the game, he had himself another good performance, kind of like Minnesota last year. It wasn't exactly dazzling, but he did enough to win the game, especially it wasn't dazzling like on the stat sheet. It wasn't like he threw like 5 touchdowns and 400 yards, but he did what he needed to do, especially on that last drive.
Yeah. 19 completions for 235 yards and a TD. What more can you ask for? Especially being thrown into that shit. Look at the circumstance. Your QB goes down, and now Dak goes down. Now you got to start. And everybody's looking at you to see what the rest of the season is going to look like, because Dak is going to be out for a while. So I think the dude did good. I mean, did you see him? Did you see him on the run? He hit Noah Brown on the corner with that corner route. Noah Brown had himself a game.
Yeah.
Noah Brown had himself a game, and I'm glad that happened too, because now we can take the attention off of CD and it'll make him calm a little bit.
However, the thing I think you're forgetting about this Dallas team that is really the key to this team, that defense.
Yeah.
Micah Parsons had himself another heck of a
11
game.
from heaven, yeah.
And the Bengals O-line, Joe Burrow is going to get turned into Andrew Luck at this rate, unfortunately.
Wow.
I'm worried for him. He's on track to get sacked over 100 times this year with the rate he's going sacked. That is not good for a team that's invested so much into their O-line.
Defense definitely had a solid game. As far as the secondary, anytime you can hold Jamar Chase to around 50 yards is always a win. I think we did good. Like you said, Michael Parsons, 11 from heaven, got himself 2 sacks. And that's another one. He sacked Tom Brady twice. If he can keep that up, Defensive Player of the Year, is that what I'm smelling?
It could be a possibility. I mean, I definitely don't. The only other person that I could have considered it so far is TJ Watt, but he's going to be out for a while, so possibly. Now you guys head into New York next week to play the Giants on Monday Night Football.
Yeah, we got
the Giants lead the division right now.
Whatever.
In case I need to remind you.
Yeah, they're on a 2-game winning streak, but just like you said, the Packers own the Bears. We own the Giants.
Yes, and speaking of the Green Bay Packers,
we got it.
Owning the Bears, the Green Bay Packers doing what they always do,
my God.
dominate the Bears. And once again, poor Justin Fields. He's got no help on that Bears offense.
No help at all.
The only thing that they were able to do was run the ball with David Montgomery, and even their passing game was of no help whatsoever. Yeah. The Packers offense did great all night. Yeah. Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, they both had a heck of a game, over 200 yards for both of them combined. Yeah. Aaron Rodgers getting more comfortable with the receivers.
I was about to ask you that.
Yep. Sammy Watkins had himself a couple of good catches. Christian Watson had a couple of end arounds, kind of like what you would see with NDSU. Yep. Romeo Doubs had one play with a good catch. Yep. Alan Lazard got himself a touchdown. I'm glad to see him back. However, now heading into this next game against Tampa Bay on the road definitely makes me nervous as a Packers fan for multiple reasons. One, Tom Brady always seems to have a hex on Aaron Rodgers. He's beaten him the last 3 times that they played.
You're a Tom Brady hater, so you came at me because the Cowboys lost against the Brady, the greatest of all time. Let's see if A-Rod's he's in my top 5 QB all time. Just make that known. But let's see if he can take the GOAT down.
And it's going to be very interesting because the other point I was going to get to here, the Packers, they struggle in Florida. They cannot win games in Florida.
I don't want that excuse. Are you guys taking the win, yes or no?
I'm not saying it as an excuse. I'm just saying statistically, Green Bay struggles.
You guys taking the win, yes or no?
Am I taking the win? It's going to be very interesting to see because there's going to be – hold on, let me get my point here. There's going to be players that are out on both teams. That's going to make this game a lot different than what it looked like initially at the year. Chris Godwin and Akeem Hicks are going to be out for the Buccaneers. However, for the Packers, Bakhtiari still don't know if he's going to play. And a big injury that just came up today, which is very unfortunate, is Sammy Watkins, the aforementioned Sammy Watkins. He's going to be out due to a hamstring injury. Okay. And Alan Lazard, Christian Watson, they were on the injury list this week as well. They're questionable for the game. So I don't know how many receivers we're going to have for this game. It's going to be very interesting to see, depending on who's playing, what this offense can do.
Can I get a score prediction?
All right.
Let me get.
Let's hear it. For me, my score prediction.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to come down to the Packers pounding the rock, kind of like they did against Chicago. AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones are going to have themselves the kind of game they did against Chicago. I feel like this is going to be a defensive matchup, though. Both of these defenses, I think, are in the top 10. So I'm going to predict a Tampa Bay victory, unfortunately. I'm going to predict that Tampa Bay is going to win this game 17-10.
And let me just say this before we get out of here. I had a good Monday night. The Vikings
I did too.
Lost to the Eagles. I just want to point out, DB, Stubbs, Noah, the Vikings are out of there. I told them they're going to lose in the city of brotherly love.
I think Kirk Cousins forgot that Darius Slay doesn't play for the Vikings. I think he forgot that he plays for the Eagles because it seemed like every pass in the second half he was throwing to Darius Slay.
Not only did they lose, their performance was horrible. But thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Bison Overtime. I'm Malik Mitchell.
And I'm Dash Mentzel.
And we will catch you guys next week. Stay tuned.